Hello and welcome to Access, thanks to Crypto.com. Matthew, Lloyd and Damian Barrett with you. 8 matches remaining, 9 teams with genuine premiership hope, Lordo.
There is, Damo. It's going to be an exciting last 8 weeks in the run into the finals. I'm looking forward to chatting about what you think will happen with Tom Lynch over the next 24 hours, and also who's waiting the wings at Collingwood, who you think might be the finals X Factor.
Yeah, there's a massive wild card there, Lordo. We'll get to that in a moment, but we'll start with one of those teams alive with premiership hope, Lordo. It's the Fremantle Dockers. 6 wins in a row now, and a very, very good last quarter against St Kilda last night at Optus Stadium. They were led yet again, as they have been now throughout the course of this year, by Luke Jackson, who I feel is the dominant big man in the game right now.
Last quarter highlights we're going to show, and it was Darcy and Jackson inspired in the last quarter, and you've been big on it, that you like how it works. I've been one to said, no, I just like Luke Jackson alone because he's better without Darcy in the team, but it worked really well. They lost the clearances, so that's one thing I will say. They were smashed at the clearance.
Not in the last quarter.
Not in the last quarter, but Sarong had a quiet game, so it was one of his probably worst games of the year, which affected that as well. Full credit to St Kilda, who threw extra numbers around the ball, but it was an inspired last quarter by the big men.
It was. They got to 14 points down early in the last quarter. There was a statement, I think, of sorts being made there where Jackson passed to Darcy, who kicked the goal. There was another passage of play, Lotto, where they were both in the centre square for one of those clearances. Yeah. Jackson was ruck roving. His last quarter was as good as we've seen in a game-changing context. Yeah,
and that's where it works. I remember Shifter Sheehan speaking about Luke Jackson when he was first drafted, saying this guy could be a great ruck rover. And that's maybe what happens towards the end of the year. And it has happened a fair bit throughout this year as well, that they're fortunate that he can be a ruckman or a ruck rover or a forward.
Yeah. Just on the combo itself, Lotto, I'm really glad that Darcy's now got a body that is allowing to play at least a bit of footy. He was good against North Melbourne. They both were against Cherry in round 14, and it took both of them yesterday to bring down Rowan Marshall again. And I'm going to make Luke Jackson the subject today of our Crypto.com bold call for Access. And I feel his past 6 weeks, Lotto, has him in the All-Australian lock position right now. I know Max Gawn has been considered the front runner. I would argue that the past 6 weeks of a winning streak for the Dockers, with Jackson leading the way, he's now in front.
Yeah, I'd agree with you. I think Max Gawn was way in front early, and the last 6 weeks, you can look at all the numbers you like, but for impact and what he does with his mobility around the ground, I'd have Jackson in front as well.
And for the sake of this conversation, we've taken Tom de Koning off the options here because he's had a poor fortnight, and they're the other names. Tristan Cherry has not done much wrong at all. The green highlighting numbers there are the category leaders or second in each of those categories. But Darcy Cameron too has had a great year, Lordo, but Jackson is starting to shape this football club and shape this season the way he's playing in my eyes.
Yeah, you can see Max Gawn, he features in 4 of the 6 categories that we're showing there. But Luke Jackson, with the eye, he does more damage. So when you mentioned de Koning, he should look at Jackson and say, that's what I want to be. With the impact that he has and the mobility both players have, Jackson's just been a wonderful player for Fremantle.
The 2 goals he kicked in that last quarter yesterday, the 4 contested possessions, the 3 marks, but it was the presence and the about a goal a game record that he's got to this point. That's one bold call. You've got another one right now.
Well, Alex Taru is one of the more exciting second games you'll see for his courage, like the commitment that he had to just compete. He may start trying to mark some of these, but that's the only thing you'd pick out, in terms of that sense. But
that'll come, won't it?
That'll come within the matter of weeks. But the commitment, the courage, the aggressive nature,
the timing,
like I'm talking, it reminded me of a young Glenn Archer, for example. The impact that Glenn Archer had when I played against Glenn, or when Glenn was around, you wanted to know where he was, and he just had a fearless nature. Well, this guy, Alex Taru, there hasn't been a lot of excitement to come out of St Kilda. I'm not sure what would excite you there, but this kid, I heard a lot about him, but he meets all the hype for what he did yesterday.
It's a big rap
over in Perth. It was outstanding what he did. I'm talking, he just gave absolutely everyone, and turn it over occasionally, as young kids will do, but he's everything and more that you'd hope from a top 10 pickup.
From a Dockers perspective, have you got concerns now about Nat Fyfe? He was named a sub yesterday and was not used, and Justin Longmuir, the coach, post-match explained the reasoning behind that being that he felt calf soreness as he was doing some run-throughs at half-time. Now, previous week, 2 weeks ago, he was the sub, came on. Then last match, he played, started, and then was subbed out. This is what's happened in the third week.
Yeah, he's pretty much their 22nd to 25th best player. That's where Nat Fyfe sits. And then you've got Hayden Young. Hopefully they'll get back soon. So, yeah, he's in a fight now to play again for the Fremantle Dockers, I would say, and whether he's in their best side in a month's time when he's back.
And the name you mentioned there, Hayden Young, is a massive wild card element to the Dockers as they head towards September. As is Jordan De Goey at Collingwood, Lordo. The Pies had a big win against, or sorry, I wouldn't say big win, but a good commanding win, a 5-goal win against West Coast at Marvel Stadium on Saturday night. It's without De Goey. He hasn't played since their second loss of the season against Geelong, but the reminder, I think, to the whole competition that this guy is, I think, outside of Dustin Martin, the best finals player in the recent modern history, both through 2018, 2022 and particularly 2023. They've had him on a fitness campaign, Lordo, that will have him back by way of their intention for the last 6 to 7 games, rounds of the season, and that's all they need him for because he could be the match winner.
Yeah, I like it. I like looking forward to what they've got, and they've got the luxury now of being 2.5 games clear on top of the ladder and being able to just say, Jordan, we don't need to rush you whatsoever. Like, it's not as if it's like Stringer-like where they need to try and win now. They can do what they like. And this is the finals record you're talking about. The green is just, he goes up in every category. Disposals, inside 50s. Look at the clearance numbers. So to add him into that clearance forward mix is huge, and score involvement. So, yeah, another 3 or 4 weeks doing a mini pre-season, you'll be ready to go.
And there may be a VFL return, the way they are planning, but that is still yet to be formally decided. Although it's same old when it comes to Melbourne. They were okay in quarters 2, 3 and 4. You pay no attention to that because in the first quarter against the Gold Coast Suns, they were just blown away. And the same old component is the midfield, and it just doesn't change. And unfortunately for Melbourne in 2025, it is not having effect. And the reluctance to use those names on the bottom of that board there, Lordo, it's holding them back because the tried and true in Petrarca and Oliver, we'll get to Petrarca in a moment, but it's just not getting the job done.
Yeah, and Simon Goodwin's just got to use the next 8 weeks, Damo, just to do something. Do something to, yes, they have introduced a lot of young players, and yes, he has made some really strong decisions at the selection table by dropping key players right throughout the year in Fritsch and Lever over the weekend, Van Rooyen. But now it's about just freshening up this midfield group, which is just the game's gone past them, and that's what I believe. The game has gone past Jack Viney in certain situations, unless he's a run-with player. Clayton Oliver, the game has gone past players who are just too quick for him. And then Christian...
Can they get it back?
It's difficult. They've just got to be used really smart and players around them. And that's where Pickett's so important for them. But who else can support these players? And Christian Petrarca's the other one who has fallen off a cliff for me, Damo, from a guy who has been for a long, long time in the best 3 or 4 midfielders in the game. And now I wouldn't have him in my best 15. He doesn't change games, and it's just his sloppy disposal is really coming to the fore now. I just look at, say, Noah Anderson and Jordan Dawson and all these guys that have gone past where Christian Petrarca is at. So he's one that score involvements, 13th isn't the worst, but you look at his drop-off in previous seasons. That's unbelievable what he's done. So full credit to him and the champion he's been. But I just wonder where he's at and whether we'll ever see him back to his best.
And Petrarca and those other names you mentioned, they're all on long-term deals, and that's a conversation for another day. When you just bring it back to the specifics of Petrarca, do you revisit, if you're him, what he tried to do at this stage of last year, and that is look for a football home away from Melbourne?
Yeah, I would, and I don't think it'd be the worst thing for Melbourne either. Yeah, because he's the one that would have currency compared to the others.
Does Jake Melksham, speaking of homes, find himself out Melbourne again? Because he had 11 shots at goal on the weekend. 5 of them were goals, 6 were behinds. But he looks as assured as anyone in their forward line mix still at this late stage of his already very good career.
Oh, what a wonderful servant he's been for Melbourne. I didn't think he'd be this good for the Demons either, and it's a concern for them that Jake Melksham... he's kicked 5 goals, 6, and the players... He should be a supporting cast player for Melbourne, but unfortunately he's it. Bailey Fritsch has fallen off a cliff as well, and then they've got other guys like Petty and Van Rooyen who just aren't natural forwards or smart enough to play down there. So yeah, he's the best down there at the moment, which is a concern at his age.
Contrast his form as an older player in the game with that of Tom Lynch. It's massive differences, Lordo. And there was an old-fashioned round arm king hit in inverted commas attempt at least by Tom Lynch on Jordan Butts yesterday, and this is off the ball. It's back to the 1980s. And to me, Lordo, this is indications of in a football context, a frustrated, angry old man at the moment.
Yeah, that's right. He was frustrated. He was angry. He's frustrated with the umpiring and the Crows in terms of being pinned down. But as we all say, there's no excuse for that. You can't do that. He's just so fortunate that was previous.
And this is earlier in the game, and you can see the frustrations building and bubbling.
Yeah, just because, obviously, Barry Hall, Andrew Gaff comes up. He's just lucky that he didn't connect better in terms of he got him at the back. Still, he'll get his 3 or 4 weeks, I'm sure, but could have been an 8-weeker. And would ruin his life. Andrew Gaff was never the same, was he? After what he did to Andrew Brayshaw. So you hate seeing moments like that.
I'd add even 1 week to your assessments there. I'd make it 5. I'm not normally one that I like matters being sent to the tribunal to deal with, but I think this one has to be, and I feel the statement should be made. They can do whatever they want with the outcome, and if they walk past that, because we had a situation, Lordo, where Jackson Archer on Cleary with a football act in a collision got 3 weeks. We also had Justin McInerney, which in a contact with Brandon Starcevich, I'm not even sure he got him in the head. He got 3 weeks as well. That's a good point. Story, isn't it?
Yeah.
The Crows, Lordo, in that particular game, they're doing everything they can to this point. Now, they're 10 wins, 5 losses, and their ball movement, which has always been key to them, they're now adding nuance to it, aren't they?
Yeah, and they hadn't won too many times at the MCG, but they'll conquer that and more in the run into this final series and also next year. They've got a great group. It's a young group. It's a team on the rise, probably apart from Tex, who's still playing decent footy. They're pretty young and in the perfect window for success over the next 3 or 4 years.
And they're clearly now committed to that 3 tall forwards. And this man on screen, we'll talk about him specifically in a minute, Dan Curtin, but it is working. And while they were talking about maybe resting some throughout the course of the year, they're not, are they? They're all in on it. I like it.
They are, and unbelievable. Yesterday, Max Michaelani went forward to play a negating role on Nick Vlauston and kick 3 goals. So I don't think they were ready for that, the Tigers. And it was a master stroke.
Let's celebrate Curtin. He signed a contract in the course of the week to stay with the Crows. He was never going anywhere, but to then have your first game after that with probably his best performance in football, although you can see the numbers attached to the way he played, but every single week he's just getting better, isn't he?
Yeah, and it's the size of the Crows right across the board, which is overpowering teams. And we had Scotty Burns on the Sunday Footy Show yesterday, and he said he's 6'6", so he's 6'6", and he's moving that way. And you put him out on a wing, and thought to himself, he lined up on Hugo Ralsmith, and you must be looking across and go, wow, look, what am I playing on? A bloke who can run like that, be so big. So he took 8 marks, 26 disposals and kicked 2 goals. He's only getting better. His most disposals was 16 before that game, and he's had 26. So it was a real breakout game for him.
You've been big and really impressive on Brodie Grundy's form this year, Lordo, for the Sydney Swans. Now, they lost to the Western Bulldogs on Friday night in one of the games of the year, but through no fault of his role.
Yeah, I want to take you across here, Damo, and have a look at his role and battle with Tim English. And it's a concern for the Bulldogs as well, because I think the big brutes get a hold of Tim English. And Brodie Grundy's had a lot of Brownlow votes up against Tim English over the years. And this was a fantastic game for Brodie, and it's good for him because he's been maligned a lot of his career, but it was just an epic game by him in terms of, I just loved his, the guys could get aggressive around him. So some of this stuff from Isaac Heaney, he was the beneficiary of what Brodie Grundy did. So yes, he's done a lot in his time, but back when he was at Collingwood, he used to do this a lot. Whereas we've lost that a little bit, become sort of a worker, a bit of a scrapper as a ruckman, whereas now we're seeing more damage from Brodie Grundy, and I think he was probably the best man on the ground, along with Joel Fraser and Isaac Heaney the other night. Yeah,
and Marcus Bontempelli in game 250 was great. The Dogs defenders, Lordo, they're doing their job, and I think they're holding up really well. But is it one area you've got of concern for them?
It's probably the only area of concern that I have. So the midfield bats as deep as any team in the competition. You've got Darcy, Norton, outstanding. I like the mediums and the smalls that they've got in their forward line. But it's just Nick Caulfield, who's just trying to find his way in the game there, undersized, and you've got O'Donnell, who's
still learning the game.
Yeah, he's still learning
at the highest level.
Yeah, and turned the footy over a little bit. Lobb didn't have his best night, was doing more wrestling than playing Rory Lobb the other night against Aaron Francis. But yeah, that's probably the only little concern I have. And Liam Jones, still unfit, a lot of injuries as well, Western Bulldogs.
And the state of that ground is yet to be worked out and properly rectified. The AFL sending its turf experts to the venue before next Sunday's game against the Dockers. And Justin Longmuir, the coach of the Dockers, Lord, did express genuine concern about the safety of it. There's a bit to play out between now and that game actually going ahead at that venue. Job Shanahan for West Coast Eagles, Lord, on Saturday night. You liked what you saw there, first game?
Yeah, just the way he moved. You straight away thought, gee, they've got one here. I really liked it. So the mobility of him, his foot skills were sensational, the clean hands there. So it's going to be a watch over the next 10 to 15 years because Richmond selected a number of forwards before him, and Shanahan blew out to the 30s. I've sort of followed his career a bit because he would play Essendon VFL when he was sort of in the under-18 comp, and he was kicking 4s and 5s at VFL level as an under-18 player. So he's one to watch, and just a
That's on Darcy Moore there.
Yeah, beautiful kicking technique as well. So they had a fantastic night without winning the other night, the West Coast Eagles.
Yep. Pies obviously without Billy Frampton in that game. They had Charlie Dean down back. Again, with the Bulldogs, is that a slight area of concern for them? Is it the same with the Pies potentially?
Yeah, they do support each other really well as a team defence, but that is like if after Frampton, Charlie Dean is your next player, he just can't quite step up. So good VFL player, but just hasn't unfortunately yet been able to step up. So they just got monstered in the air a little bit. Darcy Moore's not the player he was. He doesn't take the intercepts like he used to take. So yeah, that second key defender is probably the only hole that the Pies have as well.
Yep. Lordo, teams challenging for a flag need to add layers to the way they play and the individuals associated. I'm referring to Nick Watson's game for Hawthorn against North Melbourne in Launceston on Saturday. He added a dynamic to it that we knew existed but hadn't seen a lot of it at AFL level.
Yeah, the centre bounce player, the forward who can go into the centre bounces. This is one of the goals of the season, what Nick Watson did, and they're game changers. We're talking about Melbourne, like Pickett's their only probably game changer currently, whereas Hawthorn have so many of them. And, you know, I know he can be maligned as well for getting free kicks, and he loves jeering the crowd, but that's where he plays. But even this, you can't teach his ability to know where to get to the fall of the ball. That's his non-preferred left foot. Even this, his ability to mark at his side. I don't think anyone at that height has ever been that good a mark. And then he kicks 3 big goals in the first half. So when the game was there to be won, I thought he was one of the best men on the ground in that first.
And with the midfield role we're highlighting here, is it just 1, 2, 3 times a half even for Hawthorn for the rest of this year before he gets the body up and running fully for a sustained AFL career?
Yeah, you mentioned Dustin Martin earlier. I think he's been the one that just can go in and then push forward. That's what Nick Watson can also do for most of his career.
Yep. Out of round 16, there's learnings, as always, Lordo. What else have you got?
Just when you look at the fixture, the Doggies have 5 or 6 games at Marvel, so they have a dream run against some soft opposition. So they'll push high, push for top 4 potentially. Yep. Gold Coast Suns lift max, so your team's going pretty well, but Jake Melsham did a number on him. So I'm not sure where his head is at, but he's had a poor season this year. North
Melbourne embarrassed itself in Launceston, and they cannot do the same again. It's a reality check for them. They've got a big game Thursday night, the 100-year celebration of that footy club, and they need to turn up better than they did on the weekend just gone. The Blues lack leaders, don't they, on field? I know Paddy Cripps was ill, and I know Jacob Wettering was sore, but they didn't stand up when they needed them most, and they've got to rectify that pretty quickly. Josh Carr, clearly given the keys for next year. I think he's got the keys for 2025. Both Ken and he in the box on the weekend for Port. Quite liked it. And 5 rounds of bye rounds of football, Lord. I feel the Greg Swan review that is will be undertaken when he gets in. That needs to be looked at. It's sucked, I think, a bit of life out of this season.
Yeah, I don't think it's such an easy fix that we can. You're right. It's an easy fix that Greg Swan, everyone would love him for next year, to cut it down from 4 or 5 weeks down to 2.
Yeah, it has had that effect on it. Now, how do we go with our tips this week, Lordo? For crypto.com on the tipping, and you've made a move and you've put me further down the line there, Lordo. But you can't get any more than Michael Whiting, who's led, I think, from opening round this year all the way through to right now. Now, for crypto.com, coming up on afl.com.au this week, keep an eye out for an all-new player podcast, On the Inside. It will launch Tuesday. It will have those people on screen. Tom Mitchell, Paddy Cripps, Lockie Neal will join them. On the Inside, launching Tuesday. Thank you for watching Access for Crypto.com, and we'll be back next Monday to wrap up round 17.